I don't see that many people come to me with too many peptides. Not in the world
Okay.
not in the world that I live in. The world that I live in, most of the time when somebody's taking too much stuff, it's going to be androgens. It's going to be steroids and growth hormone and that sort of stuff. So the number one, but we can extrapolate out from the same thing, right? Anytime we take too much of any particular product, there's going to be spillover, right? Within the context of what I typically deal with is people taking too much gear, right? To a certain degree within bodybuilding, escalating milligrams is important, right? And taking enough androgens to build enough muscle to be a competitive bodybuilder takes doses, right? I get that. But the problem is once you start going down that rabbit hole of like, all right, 1,500 worked great. How about 3,000? All right, how about 4,500? All right, how about 6,000? And it's like there's nobody stopping you from fucking taking as much as you want. But that also doesn't mean it's going to work.
This podcast right here is just for entertainment purposes. I am not a medical doctor, not a nutritionist, or a personal trainer. I am barely fucking qualified to operate a toaster. As Ruth Lane Morso wisely said, I don't know shit about fuck, so don't trust me, don't listen to me. We're here just for shits and giggles. And if you trust me with health advice, then that's just natural selection at work. Don't do drugs, always listen to your GP. And with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started.
Guys, welcome to another episode of the OptiCast with me, Nathan.
And me, Aubrey.
Where we show you exactly what the problems are with your current approach and growing muscle and just trying to stay lean. And most importantly, what you're going to do instead to maximize your results and minimize the risks that come with this journey. And today, we have with us a very special guest who's very well known in the bodybuilding world for his no-nonsense, science-backed, and not science-based, science-backed, long-term physique transformation, like his emphasis on building habits that like actually last a lifetime, and rather than just chasing a bunch of quick fixes and protocols for this and that, it just amazing to have him with us. He's the founder of the Long Haul Fitness, which is an online bodybuilding prep coach with the team Saga Coaching, and an in-person trainer at Destination Dallas still, right?
Yes, I'm out in Dallas. I'm not with Saga Coaching.
Okay, you're not with Saga Coaching anymore?
Yeah, so Long Haul Fitness is my coaching company. I was with Saga for a short period of time, and then there were some things that happened that I decided to step away.
Okay. Well, I need to update my notes, man. God damn it.
You're good, man. All good, brother. All good.
He's Nick's appeared in a bunch of podcasts, and I definitely recommend you guys go check out his other interviews. He's discussed everything from like the mentality, like the hustle mentality, the downsides of that, mental health and competition, female prep, or the hormonal shifts that come with that, like to his own decisions, which I thought was very interesting on stepping away from bodybuilding after like placing very solidly in classic, physique, and open, which is impressive. Anytime that I see someone doing it in open and classic, I'm always fucking impressed. And he's known for saying like some things that I absolutely love. I just stole one other quote from him just now before we started, but he says, deadly consistency is the only thing you're missing that will drastically change your physique. And reminding everyone that the achievement of a goal is far less enjoyable when you forget to enjoy the process. I fucking love those two quotes, man. So please help us welcome our one and only Nick Bagley to the OptiCast. Nick, thank you so much for joining us, bro. How is everything going on your end?
You're saying quotes that I don't even remember saying, so it's great.
I got citation
mark. A little
marked.
dive there, huh? Thanks, man.
Dude, let's get started like on everyone's favorite topic of the moment, peptides. So the first thing, and he's like, of course, right? Like, and the first thing I want to know, like out the gate, is this: like, someone is running 20 different peptides, but they're feeling fine. Their sleep is good. Their blood pressure is doing okay, right? Like, what's actually wrong with doing, 20 different peptides and stacking all of this stuff if we don't have any noticeable or like visible side effects?
I mean, there's two answers to that question, because one, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if there's no side effects and your blood works fine and you're not having any issues with it and you're getting the result that you want, I mean, technically run as many as you fucking want, right? But I think the biggest issue here is that most of these things don't have research that is backed by human data. And a lot of claims that they make are based off of things that don't really fully go all the way. You know what I mean? Like, they speculate that this pathway does this and it causes this reaction. And sure, let's say that they've got that part right. Let's say that they are completely correct in the mechanism of action. They don't know what other cascade of effects. It's not like once we change one thing, it doesn't just like, okay, now it's a domino and it hits the next one and it hits the next one. It's more like a shotgun, and it just kind of like shoots things out. And we don't know what all of the exact effects are. So yeah, maybe something like SLU is a very popular one, for example. I like SLU. I use it. I've used it with athletes, but there's only studies in rats. And the doses that people will talk about are a wild fucking range. And the reality of it is like, yeah, cool, we're extrapolating data from what we saw in rats, but like we also don't know what else could be happening that could be an issue. You know, like cardarine. People were using cardarine like crazy for a while, then all of a sudden a study comes out. It's like, hey, it might cause cancer, and it's like, shit, you know. So it's a lot of that, you know, and I don't think that necessarily means that we should be terrified of these things, but I think it means we should be cautious and we should understand why we're applying them. And I think that's the biggest issue is people don't really get why. They don't understand the purpose of it beyond this influencer online said this is going to help me burn body fat. You know, and this is why I had Dwayne Jackson on my podcast a couple of weeks back to talk about this, where it's like, do you even know when you're supposed to deploy these things that ramp up AMPK that could actually be slowing down your off season? Like it's all contextual. So if you're not seeing any negative side effects, then sure, it's not that big a deal now. But we don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you know?
Are there any less obvious signs that you've seen with people who are stacking peptides, like that you can already kind of pick up on? So what would be the things like system-wide stress, signaling conflict?
It depends. It depends on what we're talking about, because like when people say peptides, there's a large group of things that are lumped into the word peptide, that like not everything that is in the list of peptides is
actually a peptide.
GLP. Retta is not a peptide. It is a GLP compound made by a pharmacy, right? So it's a matter of like, what is it that we're looking at? And to be completely honest, like my mentor Dom Kuza had to like really convinced me that some of these things were good. And I was just I'm still of this mindset with peptides. I like peptides. I use them. I take them right now. I have a sponsor and I make money from it. So like I like peptides. My problem is that oftentimes the doses and amount of time that we have to take this for the person who's not getting a deal like I am, like it's fucking expensive. And you got to take a shot every day. And then the other thing that you don't fully understand is how are you reacting to it? So like I've tried a couple different ones and gotten really poor skin like rashes just from taking the product. So it's like you don't know what you're going to respond to. So as far as what I have seen, I have not seen too much in other people because I've only ever applied a couple of things here and there. And I'm a very cautious person when it comes to clients, and it's something that I'm very upfront with them. It's like, if that's not what you want, I'm the wrong person to communicate with. You need to go talk to somebody else. I'm okay with testing limits to a degree, but I'm not stupid. But personally, what I can tell you is that I went through a period of time where I was using like Celank and Simax and methylene blue to try and like get more productivity out of myself and really be able to lock in on things and crank out more content, crank out my check-ins better and be more efficient in the process and whatnot. And I ended up in a spot where I was giving myself panic attacks on a regular basis. So bad that it was like I pulled over to the side of the road and had to fucking EMS check me out because I thought I was having a fucking heart attack. So the reality of the situation is like you can cause damage with these things, and it is what it is. I'm glad I figured it out, but it took me a long time to figure out exactly what that weaving thing was. I had to pick apart each and everything I was doing until it was like, okay, well, it's this, you know, and because it wasn't obvious, because it wasn't like, oh, I put this in and immediately gave me this thing. It was something that built over time. Whereas like I had some small ones and then all of a sudden I had the worst one possible. It was like something has to change now because I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's that, and then it's also like it's the same thing we see when somebody takes too much T3 or takes too much clenbuterol or those kinds of things. Where like if you take too many of these fat burning peptides, you're going to end up in a spot where like the body looks deflated and stringy, and you still look fat even though you're using a bunch of fat burners. Like I think that's most of what I see. And then the other one that like I think not enough people are putting enough weight behind is like the impact of Retta on your stomach of like,
yes.
Of course the idea is to slow digestion, but like, let's again, not be fucking stupid, right? Because like we are seeing that people are paralyzing their stomach and ending up in the hospital at certain doses. And then that's not something you can really fix. You know, and it's a matter of like, all right, do we need to run the Retta from fucking week 16 when we first start the deficit, or can you nut the fuck up and not stuff your face with stuff for a little while, and we use it at the end in very small amounts because it wears off fast. Like speaking from personal experience, like 1 milligram worked great for a long time, and all of a sudden it fucking didn't. And it was like, all right, I can go up, but do I want to?
Yeah, dude. No, you're touching on so many things that I want to talk about. This is absolutely fucking great, man. Because that's the space that we deal in, right? I'm all about human optimization, peptides, cutting edge, all of this fancy stuff. But dear fucking Christ, people have no idea what the fuck they're even injecting. They're like, oh, I take methylene blue for focus. I'm like, but you know how that focus is made? Like with methylene blue, like, like you're just overriding the electron transport chain. Like, no, I just know that it helps me focus. I'm like, how much are you taking, bro? Because, like these doses can range a lot too. And it creates quite a different effect, especially with things like Samax. It's not a stimulant, right? So it's a little bit different, but methylene blue at high doses, clenbuterol at high doses, like all of these things, tesofensine at high doses, man, I just feel like people are doing a disservice to their own body because they want to experiment. They want to do new things. They want to push the boundaries, but they don't even know which fucking buttons they're pressing.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? So when someone comes to me and is like, hey, I want to take like SS31, and I'm like, which part of the electron transport, like complex 1, complex 2, 3, 4, or like the last part of ATP synthase? Like, is that what you're trying to deal with? Or it's like, I don't know. I was like, then why the fuck are you considering a limapropitide? You're like, why? No, there's no reason for that. So like, when you're looking at someone's protocol, they usually come to you probably already like taking a bunch of stuff. Like, what are some red flags that basically make you go like, okay, we need to actually remove stuff instead of adding more right now?
The biggest thing is once we start getting, to be honest, I don't see that many people come to me with too many peptides. Not in the world, not in the world that I live in. The world that I live in, most of the time when somebody's taking too much stuff, it's going to be androgens. It's going to be steroids and growth hormone and that sort of stuff. So the number one, but we can extrapolate out from the same thing, right? Because anytime we take too much of any particular product, there's going to be spillover. Right. So within the context of what I typically deal with is people taking too much gear. Right. So we start to yes, to a certain degree within bodybuilding, escalating milligrams is important. Right. And taking enough androgens to build enough muscle to be a competitive bodybuilder takes doses. Right. Mm-hmm. I get that. But the problem is once you start going down that rabbit hole of like, all right, 1,500 worked great. How about 3,000? All right. How about 4,500? All right. How about 6,000? And it's like there's nobody stopping you from fucking taking as much as you want, but that also doesn't mean it's going to work. So we start getting to a point where you have oversaturated things so far that you now spill everything over to other places that we don't want it, right? Because like there's androgen receptors in places other than your muscle, and that's why we have side effects. That's why these things come up. Acne, right? There's androgens are binding to the receptor that is on your skin, and there's a bunch of other things like that. It's why people lose their hair. It's like there's so many other interactions, and like that's not my realm. I don't know that like I'm not going to be able to give you the cascade of effects. So anybody who's pissed off because I said it wrong, I'm sorry, but you get what I'm saying. Is like there's spillover and you start getting side effects from these things that cause problems, right? And like skin irritation is one. So like the skin just kind of look gross and thick or like really acne prone and oily. Sleep is disturbed. So they're not able to rest well. Anxiety, like usually it's can be very, very severe, like especially from androgens. People highly underestimate how much their anxiety is driven by the gear that they're taking, especially specific compounds. Like NPP for me is a no-go. Like
same. I can't.
Well, MPP's okay in low doses, but Deca is a no-go for me for sure because it just my anxiety just goes through the roof and I'm a wet, sloppy, fucking disgusting piece of shit when I take it. So there's always just going to be spillover. So like if we look at the same thing with like any peptides, you're going to end up in a spot where like I said, you go from being really efficient to all of a sudden things are way too efficient and you're going the wrong direction. So typically what you see is like if they are taking too many peptides, which for the most part, like you're not going to take too much BPC, right? Like it's just, you're just not gonna. So like that category we can put aside. So the only other categories we can look at is like if you're maybe taking too much of the GH peptides or you're taking too many of the fat loss peptides. Like the other ones, it's like I don't see anybody who is using a peptide outside of a cosmetic effect where they're like, let me take more, you know what I mean? Like there's peptides for everything. And I think outside of the physique realm, you're not seeing people escalate these doses of these things. I think they're using them for what they're supposed to be fucking used for the most part. It's just when it comes to physique enhancement, people immediately go, well, I got results with this, so I must double it. And that means I get better results because I want it tomorrow. And it's like, well, that's definitely not how that works. So they're going to abuse too many fat loss products is what I was saying. And then they're just getting up in a spot where they just look stringy and disgusting and fat and nothing's moving the right direction, but they're still losing weight. And it's like, well, you look worse and you're losing weight, so therefore something's not working.
Yeah.
Things off. That should be a red fucking flag right there that you're losing weight and you look worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if sleep quality is declining, if you're having like GI issues or sleep, man, it's just such a good proxy to like use to measure whether you're having an effect or just, like you said, spilling over. Because that's how I explain to people. It's like you fill up the cup. Once you fill it up, like there's nowhere else to go. It's just going to spill up. And what we call spillover is just side effects. They're just effects that we don't like. It's so, but it's true, man. And there's a lot of different, like it's a different approach in peptides and this stuff. Like there are some people that experiment with higher doses, but it's warranted, right? So for instance, like SLU with the doses being like super high. I recently did an experiment with 400 milligrams a day. And yeah, dude, it was interesting, but that's like,
I'd be fucked.
Dude,
I took a milligram and was a fucking sweaty, sloppy mess. It was disgusting.
I don't think it goes linearly. Like I think that taking 100 or 400 was pretty much the same effect. So like I didn't notice any different. I measure my body temperatures after every meal. I measure fasted. I measure throughout the day. Like I didn't notice any difference. Plus I was taking clenbuterol, so it actually lowers your body temperature a little bit. But like you don't see people pushing these things as much. It's usually PEDs and fat burners. And I actually see fat burners and peptides as PEDs because they're literally enhancing your performance and your physique as well. But we have like separate categories that almost treat peptides kind of like supplements that you can just fucking pop, like vitamin C, you know, when it's like, I mean, honestly, you just don't know what the fuck you're injecting, you know, and with a lot of these things, you can't even tell what the effect is because you might not feel anything at all, you know, and if you're always just chasing a feeling, it's like the bodybuilder chasing side effects, or the biohacker chasing that stimulation, that constant drive. It's like you're gonna fucking crash at some point. And I think there's another like side to this as well of like people using peptides and even PEDs, fat burners specifically, and GLP-1 specifically as sort of like an emotional safety blanket. So like I feel like people kind of feel naked without it because it's like, what am I gonna do? I don't have any tools. Like I'm not gonna lose fat. And like how do you go about like unwinding these like thoughts that are so fucking janked up and just like showing people like, hey, you're actually focusing too much on the wrong you're focusing too much on the cherry on the cake. You haven't even built the cake yet. Like we don't have cardio in place. We don't have a caloric deficit. Like what are you talking about?
The thing is for a long time, especially in the bodybuilding space, it was you go on for a very specific reason and then you go off completely. Right. And then somewhere along the way, it turned into blast and cruise. Right. And then that blast and cruise would vary. Right. Because people were like, oh, yeah, I'm on TRT. But TRT for them was test and primo and like maybe a little Anavar. Just to, you know what I mean? So it was like
just a pre-workout.
There was always a reason just to continue to take something because they couldn't understand that like everything's going to be okay without it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it feels good to be on cycle and the pumps are awesome and the strength is great and all those fun things. But like, you got to give your body a little breather. You know, you gotta pull back and let that stuff relax. And I think now what we're seeing is like people are using peptides as a bridging type thing within my community, you know, of like, okay, well, it's my health phase. So like, I want to stay lean during this time after the show and like, don't want to go crazy or whatever. So they'll continue just to keep taking fat burning peptides after the shows and stuff. And then that'll morph into continuing to take it into their off season and so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, they're just taking it all the time. And that's the same thing with like the guy who's like, okay, the first time he ran a cycle, he pushed it really hard, and then he goes to TRT and he's actually doing just test. Well, then the next time he does a cycle, it's like, well, maybe I don't have to maybe I could do test and GH. And the next time it's like, all right, well, maybe I could just lower the primo for a little bit and I could still continue. So it's like,
it's going to be back in 8 weeks anyway. So
yeah. So like the needle just keeps moving. So I think people are just too worried about not being able to take something and still be happy with themselves. You know what I mean? I think that's more the issue than it is anything else. And As far as like, how do I go about it? I go about it exactly the way you said it. It's like, this isn't going to work. And I explain it. And I just let them know, this is where you're at. This is what we're seeing. And if you continue down that same path, this is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
And from there, it's up to them. I can't do anything else after that. It is up to them to decide whether or not they are going to listen and do what I say, or if they're going to decide that they want to keep rolling with it, you know?
Yeah, but I find this to be one of the most important aspects of coaching, which is actually like you, like if like you, me, like we have access to pretty much whatever the fuck we want, and for really, really cheap. Like we can afford to run doses that are just catastrophically high of everything at the same fucking time. And like this like justification that starts happening, I was like, well, there's no reason to actually lower GH. And I'm like, yeah, dude, lowering inflammation. But anyways, like just, there's no reason to like, I can continue like pushing like 12 units during the health phase, right? And it's like, if I'm going to be taking tests, I mean, I'm a bigger guy, so I need like 500 milligrams or right. Like that's more of a cruise back then than it was, a proper like health phase or something like that. And you just start like justifying all of these things that are just allowing you to stay in your comfort zone, because your comfort zone now is relying on a fuck ton of drugs. You're literally a drug addict.
I think it's also FOMO, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, what if I miss my game? What if I get fat? What if I, it's like, yeah, dog, then, if you get fat, we do a fat loss phase. And if you lose some gains, we're going to gain them back. Like, stop sweating.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a matter of like the individual and where they're at mentally within their journey, right? Because like, we could say that like, oh, the young guys don't want to listen to this, that, and the other. And it's like, I got some really young guys who were doing some really stupid shit before they signed up with me. And now they listened and doing exactly what I told them. And so we could say that the young guys don't listen. Well, I also have fucking 40-year-olds who have done some really stupid shit who just didn't want to listen to what I had to say. And they went and did something stupid and fucked it up. So it's like, you can't really like just put it on an age range. It's just the individual, like, are they going to be willing to accept that like, hey, we're going to be okay if we come off for a little bit? You know what I mean? And like, this is one of those things that if you are having to deal with somebody like that, like if you've got a client who stubbornly doesn't want to listen about doses or taking less amounts of whatever, what have you, I need to back up some things first. So I need to have shown proof that something I said is going to work. Right. So like prime examples, this 19-year-old kid that I worked with this last year who went into nationals, like his food was already getting really low. He was already getting really lean way too early, all this stuff. He was on a pretty big cycle, that sort of thing. And I told him straight off the rip, like drugs are coming down, food's going up, all these things are changing. And he's like, dude, what do you mean? And I'm like, just listen. And 2 weeks go by and he's like, holy shit, like this is changing fast. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, keep going. And so each time I would make a call that was something that didn't seem like was the traditional call, I would go, look at everything, look at the track record of every other call I've made so far. Have I been right? And he'd be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, do it. So anytime he doubted it, is like I had already shown him that I can do this. So if you just let me take this one thing here, if you just trust me and listen and try this thing that I'm going to have you do that seems counterintuitive to what you think you need to do, let me show you the results and then we'll go from there. And then I can get into more depth with stuff of like, all right, now let me do this that really is going to fuck you up and make you think that we really shouldn't do that, when in reality it's actually what needs to happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if I explained that well.
No, you explained it perfectly. I remember talking to some people. There was I had a client who came to me with like severe issues with binge eating, but just like can't control it at all, right? Like I didn't give you a fucking diet plan and I didn't even give you macros. I just told you what foods to choose from. Right. So it's like, we're going to start this thing slow. We're going to stack these wins. And it's like, I know you want to just hop on Reddit. I know you just want to fucking take it because it's going to be the cure for everything. And I'm like, bro, it makes you feel fuller. And for the majority of people, they stop eating when they feel fuller. You don't. You continue eating regardless whether you're full or not. So explain to me exactly how is it that you think that this is going to help you? And that usually goes like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's probably not going to help. And I'm like, yeah, it's not going to help because you have a brain issue, not a gut issue. Like that's a completely different thing. And like just these macro decisions that start like giving people buy-in into the process. Like I remember one conversation that I had with someone that I thank God don't work with anymore. But this guy was a fucking grown ass, like 30-year-old guy who was carnivore, refused to eat vegetables, but it would eat like hot dogs and pizza. And I'm like, bro, you're not even carnivore. You're just retarded. And like, I legit like said like, bro, how about this? You've tried, because he said like, okay, let me try doing this way for like 3 months and then we'll go from there. And I'm like, no. You tried your way for 30 fucking years and that landed you inside of my coaching team. Like, there is a reason why we're not going to give it a try. You've given it a try and you can look in the mirror and see the result of that. So now we're going to give my way a try. And then once you're lean, then we can talk about it. It was like, no, man, broccoli causes cancer and shit like that. And I was like, I just don't think we can, work together. But if you think broccoli causes cancer, but you're slamming Costco hot dogs, I'm sorry, man. I don't think I can help you.
Yeah. You'll run into some people, man.
Yeah, man, it's always interesting. Yeah, man, I think there is a certain like issue with too much information, right? Like I'm a guy that's studying every single fucking day. I review flashcards of everything that I learned from Dom Kuza, from John Jewett, from Justin Mahaley, like all of these people. Like I have flashcards on their quotes and shit like that. Like I am a fucking nerd. I do believe that information accumulation is one of the main problems that people have, because they are seeing these reels every time and these like carousels on their Instagram, on their TikTok. So their brain basically automatically recognizes that as if you already had that knowledge, which you don't. If you can't explain in your own words, you fucking don't. Like if you need a cheat sheet, you don't. And it's like, dude, like, why are we so focused on just accumulating? Do you really think that the smartest people in the industry aren't working with someone? Like all of the people who are smart as shit, they have someone in their corner, because you're going to self-sabotage all the fucking time, bro. You can't escape that shit. There's no peptide, right. There's no compound that can help you with that.
The thing is, there's a difference between intelligence and experience, right? Mm-hmm. Because to be completely honest, like one of the best coaches in the bodybuilding scene right now is Chris Aceto.
Mm-hmm.
And you would struggle to find a human that is less scientific. Like, but he's one of the best coaches of all time. Right. And he just had 2 athletes win the fucking Olympia last year. So it's like, as much as science is great and it helps point us in the right direction, I kind of don't give a fuck. Because each individual person that I'm dealing with is in and of itself its own scientific experience. Yeah. Right. Or experiment. Because the problem with every single study is no one is doing it on people who are bodybuilders.
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant to us.
And bodybuilding aside, they're not doing it on people who have been training for 10 years already, who are following a decent diet, who are getting enough sleep, who are getting enough activity. Like they're putting Sally, who's untrained, into a thing, and they're going, this is what we saw. How the fuck does that have anything to do with you? Like, I
hate it, bro. Every time I see this, like, we ran an 8-week study on like trained lifters, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. 8 weeks is not even enough time for me to fucking finish jerking off, man. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, come on, man. It's the studies are. The interesting thing is that on a lot of studies, you see this happening, like with the trials of SS31, which is very well researched because it's an actual FDA approved medication. It's like, when they measure, because you can measure mitochondria efficiency on a lot of points, when they measured it on the rats that were actually healthy, they saw no improvement whatsoever on their mitochondria efficiency. So it's kind of like, man, like you might be optimizing some shit that is just literally just pissing away money, because you're not like doing it for anything other than it's part of your identity to inject shit. It's true. But I was wondering, like, is there any like peptide that you were like initially very skeptical about, but then it kind of earned like a real place in your toolbox?
All of them. I'm telling you, man, Kuza took like a long time to convince me that some of these would be beneficial. And it was finally like, all right, give me the information. And he did. And I was like, okay, maybe. So, I mean, all of them. And I'm still skeptical. And I've run them and I've used them with clients and I've seen responses. But I'm skeptical because it's like, well, we're already spending all this money on all these other things. Do I really need to tack on another $200, $300, $400 a month for these individuals just to get the results? Or do I just need to diet them harder?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you need to suck it the fuck up and be hungry? Like, it's one of those things. So it's like, is it worth it? It's individual, it's like, do we have to use these? No. For the law, this is the first year where I've consistently used them with people ever. And like, I've proven I can get people in shape. And like, well before that, like we look at, talk to the guys who competed in the 90s, the early 2000s, like while these things may have existed, some of them may have existed back then and whatnot, but they weren't talked about. They weren't used. This isn't what the guys were doing to get in that kind of shape. So it's like, we can still do this without peptides. Yeah. But if you're in a spot where you would like to use to experiment, because that's literally what it is, and you have the dispensable income and we can move the needle, cool. Let's use a couple. But that doesn't mean that we add SLU or we add MOTC and SS31, and then because you saw a video on SLU and 5-amino that we add those as well. Mm-hmm. Like you need to understand that like ramping mitochondria endlessly is a game that you don't win in. Yes. Like that's not how your body responds. At some point, the output becomes negative, and then you end up with a lot more side effects, which is what we were talking about earlier. And like you wonder why you can't calm down and why your brain's running 1,000,000 miles an hour and you're anxious all the time and you're sweaty constantly. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe because you ramped yourself too fucking far, man.
Yep, dude. No, 100%. And I see bodybuilders doing that with supplements. So like suppressing reactive oxygen species for an instance, like just way too much with antioxidants, just cranking everything up all the time. And it's like, how much damage do you think you're like causing to your system? Because we can actually measure this on blood work and then utilize supplements and peptides as needed, not as preventive care. But we're kind of taking like, there was this time that everybody was taking metformin, everybody was taking telmisartan, and it was like, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have diabetes, like everything is fine. Like, talk about AMPK, like SLU is a PPAR delta agonist. So it acts indirectly by supporting mTOR. Metformin is like directively, like straight up just AMPK 100%, and like bodybuilders were just fucking taking it for no reason. And it
don't start talking about the black method. Fucking Victor will show up and his demon will chase us. So.
Yeah, wait, you don't think it's a good idea to give a recently joined a gym female some, Humalog before training? Yeah. I mean, it's super safe.
Yeah. I mean, like I certainly think that there's benefit to some of those things, and like metformin has its place, just like telmisartan does and whatnot. But yeah, 100%. Like use it when it's necessary.
Yep.
You don't have a blood pressure problem. Why are you taking a blood pressure medication?
Dude, yeah, I was surprised because I pulled, like in my previous health phase, I literally pulled everything. Like wasn't even taking vitamin C. I was like, bro, I'm taking fucking 50 pills a day. I'm just gonna actually give it a break. And like I felt so fucking good just on PRT.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I see people do when it comes to supplements, and like even as a coach myself, I've done it where it's like, okay, we need these health supplements because these can help, right? But then next thing we know, we're taking so many pills that like you kind of feel like shit in the morning, and you're wondering why, right? It's like, well, because you took 70 fucking pills, and all the extra. It's not just the ingredients that you're taking; it's all the extra stuff that is in the pills that compounds over time and gets irritated. So it's like, okay, do we now space this out to where you have to take it multiple times a day? Are you going to remember to fucking do that? So it's that. So do we really need to use every single health supplement, or can we use some very specific things? So that's first and foremost of like, you take too many supplements, you're going to piss your stomach off. Second, are you actually using your labs to determine what supplements you need? Or when you went to look, Revive is my health supplement sponsor, and I have caught myself many times just scrolling through going, do I need this? Do I need that? Like, and that's what most people are doing. They go in there for a very specific thing of like a multivitamin and omegas, and the next thing you know, they bought a cortisol product when they don't have a cortisol problem. So it's like, that's the issue, is like you're blanketly throwing things out there. And it's like, as much as I want to immediately tell somebody like, oh, we should get these supplements because it's going to help you with this thing that I think is what it is. It's like, well, let's not just think that's what it is. Let's back it up with information so that I'm not shooting in the dark, hoping something happens.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, 100%. I like that a lot. And I've been like now going over my phases throughout the entire year. And I map out these like micro cycles of like 4 weeks at a time. So I have like, I'm going to focus on liver support. I'm going to focus on my, my joints. I'm going to focus on my heart. So I'm not popping out all of these pills all the fucking time, because people forget they also rely on transporters that sometimes are necessary for the same thing. So you're absorbing even less. And because you don't have enough substrates available, like you also don't have the capacity to even use all of these things. So like breaking it down, it also creates like for myself, like for a client like me, it creates a lot of like buy-in into the mindset of like, oh, I don't have time to waste. I only have 4 weeks to focus on my liver. I only have 2 weeks to focus on senescence. And I find that to be so much easier and cheaper, so much cheaper than, just fucking running everything around. Because if you think about it, you need support for everything, right? Like we all do. Liver, kidney, brain, heart, mitochondria, insulin, fucking, like everything. And it's like, man, like how many GI supplements do you need to take before you like realize that like some degree of bloating and burping, it's normal. Like some degree of this is part of the digestive like system, right? Like that's,
the thing that I don't think people fully understand is like if your stomach's not working well, it doesn't matter how many pills you put in it, it's not going to absorb it correctly, and without putting a name on it because it's his information to put out or not. I have a very specific bodybuilding friend that was going through GI problems who got labs done. His estrogen came back like in the hundreds and it was super high, and he was already on a good dose of AIs close to a show. So they ramped him up more. They pushed the AIs more, and they got labs a couple weeks later and his estrogen went up. And it was because his gut just wasn't absorbing anything. It wasn't absorbing and eliminate. It wasn't absorbing the medication, and then he wasn't also eliminating estrogen through his GI tract, And it's like if you put yourself in a position where your stomach is compromised, it doesn't matter how many supplements you put in there, you're just fucking making expensive shit.
Yeah, no, literally. And I talk to a lot of people who have no business eating like 7,000 calories a day. And they're like, yeah, man, I just like need a lot of food and I'm so sick of it and I can't take it anymore. And I'm like, do you have like a coated tongue? Like, are you bloated like when you wake up? Like, is the bloating get worse like throughout the day? And it's like, yeah, I'm like, you have SIBO, bro. Like you need to fix that because then you're going to be back to eating 3,400 calories and you're actually going to absorb that. Like, your muscles can't utilize something that's literally just running through your system. It's like you're popping activated charcoal all day long and it's just binding to it, and just fucking preventing you from absorbing absolutely everything. But on the note of like us talking about the GI and everything, that's like one place that I see of like a lot of issues coming up is GLP-1s, right? It's like I feel like people really don't understand like the problems that you create by letting food sit in your stomach for way too long. Like you're not made for that. That's one of the reasons why if you just ramp up protein or fiber way too fast, you're going to have issues because the food's going to sit there, it's going to ferment. Then you basically start releasing antibodies. You release antibodies. There's inflammation. When there's inflammation for a long period of time, you have chronic inflammation. Congratulations, you have leaky gut. Like you just gave yourself fucking leaky gut by trying to get a six pack. How stupid is that? Like, and on the psychology note that we were talking about, like you mentioned on the podcast that like GLP-1s basically became like outsourcing like all of their discipline to a bottle. And I feel like sometimes people do that with coaching where they like expect there to be drive and motivation and like wanting to do the work when it's like, I'm just a fucking GPS tracker, bro. You're driving this car, Like, I think like one thing you mentioned on the podcast, which was something that I wanted to hear from you, was like, hey, you need to learn to suffer, right? And you need to learn to like sit with hunger and stuff like that. And I used to not agree with that. And now I do agree with that. I actually think that trying to avoid hunger is one of the major pitfalls that people have because they chase fullness and fullness is unending. Like there's literally no end to full. You can always add just a tablespoon more of something, and like there's a difference between just suffering for suffering's sake of just like, oh, just macho man, which is usually just trauma that gets like dressed up as grit and discipline. But there's also like something to be said about actually learning to sit with your feelings, to know that you don't need to act on them impulsively every single fucking time they peek their head out, Like, how do you like deal with this, like helping people navigate the fact that like you will need to suffer. You will suffer regardless of how many drugs you're taking. Like all of these people who are like, man, I'm stepping at the Olympia and I'm fucking chilling, man. Like, this is the best prep I've ever had. I was like, that motherfucker's suffering. That dude is hungry 24/7. Like, regardless of how good they feel, their good is worse than your worst day right now.
How do I deal with it? I deal with it the same way I deal with everything else, is I just tell people up front, if you are planning to sign up with me, you need to expect that the level of work is going to be more than what you think it is going to be, right? Because this might be fun experience for you, and you might really just want to get on stage and enjoy yourself and this, that, and the other, this is my fucking job. There are people who are watching my social media on a regular basis who want to see how shredded I can get people. And every time I fuck up, that is a bigger nail in my cap than every single time I nail it, because people are going to focus on the negatives. So I'm very upfront with people. It's like, I am not here to hold your hand. I am not here to be your best friend. I am not here to please you. I am here to get a result. I'm not going to be a dickhead to you. I'm going to make sure that I support you in every possible way I can, as a coach should. But there's going to be a line to that. There's going to be a line in the sand of like, hey, look, I'm here to support you, but like, I'm not your therapist. I'm not your best buddy. Like, this is my job. So I'm just upfront with people of like, if this is your first show or whatever, if it's their first, usually if they've done more than one show, they kind of understand. Even if they didn't really get in as good of shape as they should have, typically they're like, yeah, it was still really hard, right? Like, even if they didn't get in really good shape, they probably pushed harder than they ever have. But I'm just going to preface it up front of like, look, this is what you showed me of what you did last time on stage. This is not the standard that you need in order to be competitive. Do you want to be competitive, or do you just want to get on stage for shits and giggles? Most of the time, people are like, oh, I want to be competitive. It's like, okay, well, then we can't do this again, which means you're going to have to step it up, which means I'm going to have to push you, which means you're not going to like me for a little bit. But that doesn't matter, because the day we get that award in our hand because you kicked everybody's fucking ass, you're going to like me a lot. So right now, I don't care. And I'm just upfront with people about that. And like, if you give me 100%, I'll give you 150. And that's the way I always work. It's as soon as somebody wants to just kind of like, oh, I think I want, like, yeah, I'm kind of in and kind of out. It's like, yeah, so am I then. Like, you're not going to get 100% out of me if you're not doing this, you know? So I just try to preface that stuff up front of like, if you're doing this is not a walk in the park. This isn't just a weight loss thing. Mm-hmm. So if you want to just lose some weight, let's not worry about a show, and let's just get you in the habits. But if you tell me you want to do a show, buckle the fuck up and let's go. But the other thing there is like, it doesn't really matter how much I tell them, because until you have done it, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no amount of podcasts or conversations that can be had that can prepare you for what's to come. That's just it, because it's not just the diet, it's not just the energy that gets put in. It's also like life still happens. Mm-hmm. You know, like people die while you're in prep. You lose relationships while you're in prep. You lose jobs while you're in prep, and it's up to you whether or not you continue to do the thing you said you were going to or not. And it's a matter of weighing out whether that's what you actually need to do at that time. If you lost your job and there's no job on the horizon, and you're not sure you're going to be able to pay rent next month, you should probably fucking take a step away, man. But if it's something where it's like, well, my girlfriend broke up with me, but I still absolutely love this and I don't care, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. Yeah, buckle the fuck up. Let's roll. Right. So it's all context there. But yeah, I think I answered that as best I can.
Dude, no, that was fucking great.
So balancing the use of peptides, PEDs, compounds in general with the discipline factor, do you find that people use them as crutches? And if so, kind of what's the psychological damage of that? Or even using them too early in the process, or, you know, if somebody's just starting out and they're already using a shit ton of peptides and everything and compounds, does it warp their perception of reality?
Like what to expect in terms of like every time that I cut, I use cleanse. So I'm expecting that I'm going to drop weight at this rate always. And, you know,
it's kind of like they've been training for 10 years already.
So like they come in with preconceived notions of what needs to happen as far as drugs are concerned. Yeah. I mean, look, I've dealt with that a lot. And, you know, there's plenty of times where we just don't see eye to eye on it, and it just doesn't work out, you know, and it just is what it is. But like, I can be okay with that. I can be okay with the decisions that I made. Mm-hmm. I also again, if someone is coming to me with that stuff, like this is why I screen all my calls. I have a call with the individual before we get into it, because it's like I'm going to ask a series of questions based on the responses that they gave me, and it's fairly obvious when somebody's not willing to budge on their stance. It's usually like, yeah, you're going to be a pain in my fucking ass, so this is probably a bad idea. So like, to be completely honest with you, I don't deal with a lot of that. I do deal with people who come to me who are taking a lot of shit, and I go, hey, well, this isn't going to work. And they go, yes, sir. And they're like, I'm here to learn and I'm here to listen. And that's what I've attracted. And that I'm very blessed with that. But, you know, I also take a stance when it comes to any compounds that we start at the minimum. We start at the smallest amount. And there's, especially at the pro level, there's this idea that like if you're not taking 1,000 milligrams or more of androgens, that you're not doing anything. And my thing is and I talked with Kuza and a couple other people about this too. It's like, okay, let's say you have been on a health phase and you have been on 200 milligrams of testosterone. You have been on legitimate TRT and nothing else. Why then do we need to immediately go from 200 milligrams to 750 milligrams of test and 500 milligrams of mastron and 6 IUs of GH? And like, what, that does not make sense to me. So what I try to do is go, cool, let's just add another compound onto that 200 test. Cool. Now let's escalate the test. Cool. Let's escalate that other compound. And it's a cascade of effects, because it's like, well, if we're coming off a 200 test and we've been off during like 8 to 10 week phase, if I just put in a little bit of shit, we're going to see a response, and then I can add more when we need it. So it's like, it doesn't have to immediately be like, let's ramp this as high as we can and then continue to stack drugs on top of it. It's like the goal is to like slowly nurture and move this thing this direction based on the timeline that we have at hand. Not like a laid out, like at week 20, we take this drug. At week 18, we take this drug. Like, I don't do that, but I use it. I look at it based off of like, okay, yes, we are in the 10-week out range. So here is a list of products we could potentially be using. And does it make sense for this individual? Are they telling me that they're really struggling with money right now? Yeah, probably not a good idea for me to tell them to go buy another fucking compound. Are they on their first cycle ever? Okay, I'm not going to put them on trend. Like it's these kinds of things that I have to have the conversation with myself on, and then tell them, this is why I want to do this. This is what we're going to implement. You don't need XYZ because of this, right? And with any of these situations, when it comes to peptides or it comes to steroids or it comes to food, or insert whatever the fuck you want there, the thing that always is going to help somebody, if they are willing to be helped, is explaining the why, right? The more people can understand the why behind decisions that are being made, the more they're going to be willing to actually follow those decisions, right? I think one of the worst things that you see from coaching, at least from the earlier years, like the early 2000s and stuff, would be you send pictures and you get a response back that says, okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, look, there's going to be people who argue that that's a better way of doing things. And for some, yeah, that's great. But like me personally, I want to know why I'm doing things. I don't want to just be given a thing and go, yes, sir. I'm not a fucking idiot. Like I want to be informed so that I understand your thought process behind this, because maybe the way I look at it isn't the way you look at it. And maybe if we come together on it, now I can fucking learn something, right? Yeah. Versus people just kind of blindly just being robots and just doing what they're told because an email told them.
Well, I think that there's some benefit to, it's kind of like a superpower, the people that can do that if they're in the right hands. So somebody that was like a blind robot that would come to you.
Dude, my military guys, my shooters, my law enforcement, like, fuck, they're just good, robots.
But I think pairing those two things together, like from my perspective, you know, Nathan's my coach. So I don't say yes, sir, but I do come to it and I'm like, okay, like, let's go. I'll do whatever needs to be done. But my brain is always like curious, and I just can't get past this. Why, you know, I want to ask the questions. I want to understand the big picture.
I've run into this a number of times here recently, and I say this to people constantly. It's like, they will want to ask me a question and they lead with, I'm not questioning the program, but I have a question about this. And it's like, why do you think that I think you're questioning the program?
Yeah.
You are doing exactly what I fucking told you to do is communicate. I send out a video after I make a program for somebody. I send out a video that's usually anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, breaking everything down that's in that program, the why behind it. At the end of it, I go, if you have questions, let me know. Yeah. I literally tell you to ask me questions. So, like, this is the whole this is why you pay me money. Like, dude, this is the whole thing.
I'm
like,
the same
ask
way.
Me questions. You are not questioning me. And like, I think it's a matter of like, people have been traumatized by shitty coaches over the years because like they were probably dealing with somebody who was that person that like snapped at them because they asked a question to go, why are you questioning me? Just do what you're told. And it's like, well, that's not coaching. That's you being an asshole. Like your job is to coach and explain things. If you cannot fucking take the time to explain it to someone who is paying your fucking bills, get the fuck out. Go away.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I've talked about this on the podcast before. There's this girl who had a coach, first prep, natural. So it's going to be rough, right? And she was just wanting to know why she was spending like $400 a month on supplements. So she just asked like, hey, why is it I'm taking like this and that? And she said, Google it. And I was like, bro, if I'm dropping hundreds on you every month and you tell me to Google it, I'm going to fly over to you and smack you in the face, bro. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's disrespectful. I think to like people who are intellectually curious like us, you know, it's like if someone tells me like, hey, I just need to know what to do, don't even bother explaining. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Just make my life easier. But if you're curious and want to learn, like that's why I tell people like it's not so much of a coaching, it's like a coaching mentorship because I want you to learn this shit as we go. You know, like I don't want you to be dependent on coaching for the rest of your life. You know, it's like I want you to actually be able to do shit on your own. And then as you face bottlenecks and stuff like that, hit me up and let's fucking work on it again, you know? Yeah. Like just switching gears back to the GI here, because like I don't know what it is about GI like studies, but like it costs me so much mental bandwidth to convince people that it's a good test to run whenever it's warranted, right? Like we're seeing a bunch of effects. We tried a couple of quick fixes and stuff and nothing really sticked. It was like, okay, we need to actually take a look. And it's like people don't understand. And I don't think they do. Like the role of the GI is in like every fucking bodily function, everything you ingest that's going to be dispersed through your body and it's going to go to your mitochondria, right? Like it's going to first go through your GI. Like, can you walk us through like why monitoring the GI health is so important for us that just want to be fucking big and lean? And like, what are some things that you start like seeing that you're like, okay, I think it's time for us to actually like pull some tests and just like see what's actually going on under the hood?
I mean, it's always going to be contextual. It's always going to be a matter of like what side effects the individual is dealing with. People push back on it because it's a lot of money. I mean, that's the number one thing. I mean, usually they're $500-600 to get a GI map, and it's kind of annoying. And you got to shit in this fucking thing, and you think about fucking fry containers, and it makes you a little like sketched out when you go in and out the next time. You know what I mean? So it's like, people don't want to do it because it's just like people don't go to the doctor because they kind of don't want to know. They kind of they're hoping that they can just take a product that they saw on the internet and it's going to fix the issue. When the reality of it is like, if you are bad enough off with the GI problem, you are probably about to have one of the hardest times of your life fixing it. Like, it's not fun usually, and most people don't have the discipline to fully fix that. Right? Because like while you feel like shit, you're not going to want to eat the right foods while you're killing all this stuff off. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to want to go to the gym. Your stomach's still going to feel like shit. So you're just going to want to eat whatever's convenient, and that will make things worse. So trying to stick to a diet plan when your stomach feels like shit is even harder. So I think it's a matter of like facing the reality that they're about to have to do something incredibly difficult that they might not be able to fully commit to is probably the biggest issue for them. But when it comes to like a client or bodybuilder or whatever, if like you already said it, it's like the GI tract is involved with everything. Like every single possible interaction that we have in our system, there is some link to the stomach somewhere. So like it's really a matter of like how does that present itself? Like what are the issues they're having? Are they distended? Are they holding water? Or do they now have an issue with estrogen because they're not eliminating it right? Like it's all a matter of like what the side effects are, and then you just kind of have to approach it from there. Like there's a million different things it could be. So it really just is based on what we're seeing in front of us. But I think unchecked gut problems is part of why we see a lot of like distension in bodybuilding, why we see a lot of guys like start to fall off quickly after a period of time. Like they chase getting as big as they can, which means eating as much food as they can and taking as much drugs as they can and training as hard as they can, and not understanding that all this creates systemic inflammation, which then causes more problems. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of things that can come from a messed up gut. So it's like, if we've done the basics, I have a checklist. I have a questionnaire that I have them fill out, and it's like somewhere around 30 questions that they go through and highlight. And then I have a cheat sheet about like, if they answered this one and this one, it could likely point to this. And like, we'll go through that stuff first. And like, if it points towards us needing to dive deep and go like, all right, do you have H. pylori? Do you have SIBO? Do you have one of these issues? Then we'll go do testing. But if it's just like, we have low stomach acid, we can test that shit at home, so it's all a matter of like, not everybody needs some like crazy antibiotic protocol to fix their stomach. Some people do need really simple things, but if you've tried to do all those simple things and you're still dealing with problems, yeah, nut up, pay the money, just shit in the fucking tray and send it off.
You have someone whose gut is already in a good spot, and you're trying to maintain it and maintain good gut health during, year of growth or a fat loss phase. Do you have specific, maybe like 2 to 3 ground rules that they have to kind of maintain?
Variety in the diet and probiotic foods. Mm-hmm. I'm not big on like probiotic supplements. I don't think that we know enough about the gut microbiome to be able to go take these specific strains in this number and this is going to cure everything. I certainly think that there can be use cases for very specific strains for very specific circumstances. I think that there is a benefit to things like that. The general individual who's just trying to improve overall stomach function, probiotic foods is probably one of the best ways to get it in the most balanced way possible. So like start your day off with some kombucha, put some fucking sauerkraut and some meals across the day, or put some kimchi or whatever it is that you can tolerate and like, and do that. And I've been trying to convince more and more people to do that. So there's that, and then just variety of food. So like just not ending up in the meathead chicken, rice, and broccoli all the time. Like making sure like we can use broccoli for sure, but the problem is like when we see people use broccoli on a regular basis, you end up with a lot of farts and bloating and stomach irritation and stuff. So it's like, all right, if you just fucking love broccoli that much, cool, have it once a day. But let's also have some spinach. Let's also have some green beans. Let's have some sprouts. Let's have some beets. Let's have peppers and onions and all these different things, so that there's a variety to this stuff, and not just use rice-based carbs, like use sourdough bread and potatoes and all these different things like that, in order to make sure that there's a lot of different things going on in the system, not just chicken all the time, making sure there's a variety of different protein sources and fruits. I think fruits are huge. Making sure that people are eating fruits and vegetables, I think, is a very underrated thing that I think more people should be really implementing. Even people who are trying to push the limits as far as food is concerned. I think vegetables is something that often gets thrown out because it's just extra bulk that they don't want to have to work through. But I think they end up shooting themselves in the foot long term rather than like in that moment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, 100%. That's you nailed it. There's nothing left to add there. I just on like, for us to close this up with like more of an integrative approach on like how you work, like, for myself, like everything is always going to start in a mitochondria, right? Like that's the first thing that we're going to do. And then after that is absorption and detox, right? Like the all of the phases of detox, just making sure that we have like the soil pretty much ready, like the filters of our system pretty much ready. And at that point, like then I can utilize like this new system that we have in place to start like touching things like, basically establishing hormesis, which is like this balance of good stress to like a stress in a controllable environment to build some resilience in your system. And at that point, it's like, okay, now let's start thinking about hormones. Now let's start thinking about like your cycle stability and all this type of stuff. And like the last thing for me not in terms of steps, but in terms of like the priority of all of this stuff, that's where like hypertrophy, fat loss, performance, and like that's where this is going to live. So like it sort of like allows me to have like these simultaneous demands, the domains that I'm like monitoring and checking at all times, and I don't have to create a dichotomy like between like what's more important. Like, is it like managing your stress or your sleep quality? Is it peptides or PEDs? Is it training or is it diet? Like, I find those like kind of, I mean, come on, like no one's going to build an impressive physique by just training hard or by just eating healthy food, right? Like, you find that eating healthy food, people at Whole Foods, and you find the people that don't fucking diet at any gym, they just, you know, they're a little bit bigger, they're healthier, but nothing impressive. Like, in terms of you, like, do you have like a series of things that you're like checking, or like how do you integrate all of this within like your own system, basically? Like, what goes from like the most important thing, like long term, to like the cherry on the cake, so to speak?
So like if somebody's coming on to my team, like where do I start with them as far as it depends on where they're coming from. So like we'll say there's two different people. We got one person who's not following a plan at all, and then we have somebody who is following a plan, right? So the person who's not following a plan at all is like, I'm going to put bare bones basic stuff together first, and I'm just going to see how your body responds. Like I'm not going to, I don't really, when somebody first comes onto my team, like if they have a bunch of data and whatnot already, like they have labs and they have all these things to back up what they've done and whatnot, awesome. But like, I kind of don't care. I want to know what's going to happen as we go forward. Like, this is good information. This is stuff for us to hold on to for the future, just to see trends and whatnot. But like, I don't have any context to what you've already done with those. I can see the labs and whatnot, but like, I don't know what you did to get them there. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? So if they're not following anything at all, it's like I put them on a baseline diet. You're going to eat this amount of food every single day for the first 5-6 weeks. This is what it's going to be. We're going to get a baseline of cardio in. We're going to get 4 to 5 days of training in a week. We get 2 days of rest. We're going to try to improve your sleep. We're going to make sure you're well hydrated, make sure you're well fed, make sure your body is processing food well. Like, the number one thing that I want to see in the first couple of weeks with anybody is that they're going, hey, I'm starting to get hungry. Like, that's what I want to see relatively quickly. So if they're not following anything, is like I'll put them on a baseline of just whatever. Like I'll ask them like what their food likes and dislikes and those kinds of things are, and I'll try to structure something that they will enjoy, because that's what they're going to stick to, right? But then if I have somebody who's already on a plan, for the most part, if they're on a plan, it's at least thought out in some manner and they have been sticking to it for a while. So that means that they have already created habits around that thing. So all I want to do is take what they're already doing and just shift it. Just turn it a little bit, right? Because like I just made a program for a lady earlier this morning who dealing with perimenopause and dealing with prediabetes and all these different things. And the biggest thing I told her is like, you're under eating and you're overstressed. You're working out 6 days a week. You're doing cardio 7 days a week. You're eating 1,400 calories. You're barely eating any food. And this is exactly why you're seeing you're not perimenopausal yet. You can extend this for another couple of years. You have just run yourself into a hole. So it's like, but her meal plan, the point of me saying that is her meal plan was not that terrible. It was just a matter of like, she had the worst is when I get a female and all they have is in carbs in a meal. There's no vegetables, there's no fat source, there's no nothing. It's just protein and carb, chicken and rice, and that's it. So she at least had vegetables, she at least had added fats in the diet and that sort of thing, but it was very skimpy on the amounts and whatnot. So it's like, I need to get food in your system. I need to get stress down. I need to do all those things. I just took what she was already doing and put my own modifications on it. She already had the structure. She's already used to this. I don't need to overhaul everything. Like I don't need to, I'm not so cocky that like I think that I have the most perfect way to do something, right? If they are already used to it, it might not have been working, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just needs to be adjusted. It just needs to be shifted, and that's it. So that's kind of where I start with things. Like, I typically am not worried about pulling labs or doing any in-depth dive into anything until the person's shown me that they can stick to it. If you can't stick to a plan for the first 6 weeks of me not making any changes while we figure out what your body's doing, why am I going to pull labs for you? Why are you going to waste that money? Because it doesn't matter. Yeah. You're not going to stick to what I need you to do anyway, so you're going to continue to have skewed labs. So you either need to drop this idea that you have been doing things right and let me do my job, or we need to go our separate ways.
Yeah, dude, this is very good. And Nick, man, I mean, dude, thank you. This was an absolute fucking masterclass, man. We covered so much, and it gives people a lot to think about, especially like the idea that like we need to build like long-term progress. Like that comes from like building resilience and mastering the basics, before we reach out for a bunch of tools and stuff. If you guys are, still listening and you guys want to deeper dive into his like non-BS long haul approach to coaching, like his Instagram, I believe it's Nick_Bagley_.
Yep. Nick Bagley _ Yep. Nick _Bagley _ Yep.
Yep. Dude, that's where he drops like a lot of content, like a lot of podcast snippets and a lot of videos, like in conversation with other people that I've learned a lot from. And also, if you guys see the value in what we had today on this episode, like I know you did, do us a solid, smash the like button, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, like something like, oh, maybe your thoughts on like stacking peptides or like what you think about gut health and stuff like that. And also subscribe, so you never miss an episode. We're building like a real community here, not just, just dropping off content because I have nothing else to do, because I actually have a lot of stuff to do. So also, guys, stay tuned, because next week we're going to have a straight up fucking banger dropping with someone who's been like crushing in the trenches, has some fucking wild stories and some game changing insights. I'm really, really excited to like touch on like what we're going to talk about next week. But for now, Nick, thanks again, dude. Thank you for your time. Thank you for bringing up this fucking heat and just dropping sauce after sauce, man. I really appreciate you. And until next time, you guys keep optimizing, keep training hard, keep thinking long term, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace out.
Peace.